Hello again, it's Robert Fitton, feeling somewhat better than the last time I spoke to you. Now just loopy on all kinds of like cold fever type medication and, just still wanting to review these albums though and make videos. And so here we go. Okay, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Let Love In from 1994. Pietri Rantanen wanted me to review this one, and Nick Cave, perfect for the fever dream kind of situation I'm in right now. Sweaty and then chills and then just very nightmarish dreams and just feeling out of it and just if I breathe in too heavy, I start floating around. It's Robitussin makes you feel so fun. Isn't that Moby Grape? Anyway, this is Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. And he's perfect for a time like this. The albums, is like, I've said this before about other albums, not exactly something you listen to at 11:15 in the morning on a Tuesday. This is 2:30 in the morning music, and he's definitely got his style, and it's right here. I think this is probably his commercial peak, 1994, 93. I mean, I have actually grabbed the wrong one. I have Henry's Dream, which is a great cover. This one, I'm not as big on the cover. I like the cover of that one, though. But, the guy goes from just like the Do You Love Me thing, where it's just like this brooding kind of, do you love, almost threatening kind of thing, and then sad and nobody's baby now, and then, just kind of almost evil with Lover Man. Just crazy, frantic, that Janglin' Jack song, and then more evil, kind of more violent, specific evil with red right hand. And it's definitely mood music. It sounds like something that would work well in a movie soundtrack. Make sure I'm not covering up the microphone. In a movie soundtrack, like a David Lynch type thing, or whatever, some kind of evil, whatever. And I'm sure his music has been used definitely in soundtracks. But it is definitely a great, it's well put together. His voice is, like I said, it's a similar voice in all of the songs, but it's so nuanced with the lyrics that it works on these different kind of things. He goes from sort of being your tour guide into this nightmarish world with these cautionary kind of lyrics to being the main character in your nightmare, and so it really works. I can see why this album in particular is one of the more popular ones. Musically, it's more accessible. I don't talk a lot about Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds on my channel because a lot of what I'm exposed to is more from the CD era, and it's the vinyl community, and you're supposed to talk about records and whatever. And I don't have any Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds records, so I guess Nick Cave would be a hole in my vinyl collection, as it were. That's very appropriate for Cave to be a hole. But so I need to get, I guess, the earlier stuff on vinyl. But I've got a couple of the CDs from the the 90s, and don't have this one. I thought I had this one. I should get this one. Yeah, I need to get this one. And it's not a cheap CD. It's like a $10 CD. Well, how about a 75-cent CD? That's what a lot of them are going for these days, but I guess not Nick Cave. But this guy can make anything. Just his voice and the way his whole aura just makes anything sound brooding and nightmare. Hey, this dude could sing "How Much Is That Doggy in the Window," and it would sound like, okay, whoa, what's he want the doggy in the window for? What is he planning on doing with that doggy? You want to call the police, or the ASPCA or whatever. But Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, I would definitely recommend this. I'm glad I got to hear this again. I heard this a few times back in the 90s, and really, you know, I needed to hear some Nick Cave. And this was absolutely the perfect way. Just screwed up on so much different sickness and chills and sweating and medicine and whirling around in your head, and it's like, oh, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, I'll have that. Okay, so next up is the album Rare Bird from the band Rare Bird. It's their debut, and Jake Lyons World wanted me to review this. I was sort of familiar. I heard their one album a couple times called As something Flies By. I don't remember. It has a white cover, but As Time Flies By, maybe? This one is pretty good. It's a prog rock album, but it's not the kind of progressive rock that kind of turns me off. The longer, sprawling, kind of pretentious sounding, you know, very busy, tea and crumpets kind of prog rock. I'm not into that. This is a lot more of the Nectar variety, where it's a little more in the basic song structure type of thing. It does have a lot of electric piano and organ, and it's just easily digestible songs. They're, you know, 4 minutes, 5 minutes long, most of them. There is like a really almost like a 7-minute song that starts it. But yeah, nice little riffs going on, very energetic too. It doesn't have a lot of long, drawn out, you know, kind of where is this going type of moments. So it is that kind of prog rock where it's a lot more accessible, it's a lot more immediate, and I liked it. I like it as a decent listen, especially in my you know, condition right now, because it was just kind of progressive enough to you know, to keep me interested, but not something that I'm just going to be like completely dozing off. Am I covering up the microphone? Dozing off too. So I'm glad this was recommended. I might pick this up. It was released in 1969 in the UK. So again, the sweet era for me, you know, 69, 70, 68, 71. It has a different cover for the US release from January of 70, I guess. So it kind of has that Clash London Calling type thing. It's released, you know, 2 months later in the US, but it's a different year. On the ABC Probe label in the US, in the UK it was on Charisma. 2 different covers. I don't know which one I prefer. I think I prefer the UK cover art more. But music's what counts. The vocals are a little ordinary, I guess. They're not very striking. So they are very much straightforward vocals, but it's the music, you know, it's the music with the organ and the electric piano and all of that and the bass. Every once in a while a guitar will take a solo, but there isn't a lot of rhythm guitar going on, so it's that kind of sound. But yeah, great rock, late 60s, early 70s rock music, basically. It's not so much in the progressive realm that you get like bored with it, you know, or I would get bored with it. I'm not a fan of like, you know, like Genesis, the prog era of that and that kind of thing. So this is not quite like that. So it was great to be able to hear this. Like I said, an enjoyable chill off. It's a chilling album, just thinking about it. But yeah, enjoyable listen. Thanks for recommending Rare Bird. Songs like, you know, God of War, very, you know, God of War, God of War. There's a song on there called Sympathy, which has a very easy, you know, easy lyrics to follow. You know, there's not enough love to go around. Kind of like love is almost like currency or something, or air or something. You know, you need it, and you got to have sympathy because there's just not enough love going around. Kind of not enough love in this world. What the world needs now is love. You know, you've heard that theme a lot, but here it is again. So yeah. Okay, so now we're up to the album that Chris Nairn wanted me to hear. It is by the band Killer Pussy, and it is called Bikini Wax from 1983. And that is the important thing to remember, is that this album is from 1983. And Yeah, it's a comedy album. It's a one-off album. I don't know anything about Bikini Wax or what do they call Killer Pussy, except for they are from Phoenix, and this is from 1983. And they had just the one album with it's a very short album with 8 songs on it. And you know, there's songs about dildos, and there's songs about herpes, and there's songs about Bikini Wax. Although that's an instrumental. That's the one thing too. The 2 big long instrumentals on here on a comedy album. You know, you want the comedy. You don't want instrumentals. The music, it sounds like the kind of thing that, you know, it's like the generic early 80s new wave type stuff that you would hear in like those, you know, Hard Bodies movies or, you know, that type of thing. You know, where they didn't have big music like Fast Times at Ridgemont High or Last American Virgin had like actual big songs and main, you know, big groups. You know, a lot of those movies had just like these little local, you know, LA bands or whatever doing the music, and that's kind of what this music sounds. It's fun, it's upbeat, but it's pretty generic music. So, you know, your first song is Pocket Pool, and Mommy's Little Angel plays pocket pool. Mommy's Little Angel is a pocket pool man. He plays pocket pool. He's got his hand in his pocket, and his balls are playing. The thing about this album is, and I reviewed it, I did a whole video where I reviewed that album from the 50s called, what's about a pussy? Daddy likes, My Pussy Belongs to Daddy. And it's kind of a similar thing here. The songs are dirty because they're about dildos and whatever. So, oh my God, they're outrageous. But they're not necessarily funny. Like the dildo song is, you know, it's 9 inches long and it's never done me wrong and it gets me in heat and it's a substitute for meat or something like that. Yeah, it's a dildo. It's basically describing a dildo. And so it's not that fun. It's like, funny would be, oh my God, that crazy time she got so carried away she hooked her vibrator up to a car battery. Or she, you know, used her vibrator during a thunderstorm and the mishaps, you know, the misadventures that, that went on with that. That type of thing, you know, it's like, you know, that's where the comedy would be, not just describing a dildo. But for 1983, this is probably outrageous, and oh my God, I can't believe these lyrics. She's talking about a dildo. But, you know, the thing is, I used to do parody songs. I used to do comedy songs for years on the radio on this morning show that was a rock morning show in the 90s, and it was, you know, completely outlandish. It was more than outrageous. It was way over. I mean, it really pushed the boundaries and several times went over the boundaries. And, you know, I was the guy that wrote the parody stuff and the funny songs and whatever, a lot of them, and the funny ones. And you know, I could write better songs than this in 15 minutes, you know, and a lot of times I did. A lot of times what we did was we would have a news story, and, you know, they had the news of the weird or whatever, and then I would get that morning and write some sort of song from the perspective of somebody in that crazy news story. And the whole joke every morning or once a week or whatever was, oh my God, did you know the guy put a song out about his experience? You know, oh, here it is, you know, and it was like you know, started off with parody songs, like the one that comes right to my mind is Come On Eileen. Of course, you know, you know where that's going with the Come On Eileen. And there was a story about a guy who was harassing this woman at her workplace and kept putting bodily functions and fluids all over her desk and stuff like that. And it got so over the top because she just wouldn't do anything about it. He finally just, you know, arrived all over her desk one morning. And that's why she come into work with semen all over the desk. And so, you know, let's come on my desk, on my telephone too. Looks like someone had a party with Elmer's glue. You know, I could write a song like that in 10 minutes or less. And, you know, you have to have a funny situation. You just can't be describing a dildo or describing a guy playing pocket pool. It has to be a situation surrounding it. So that's number one. Number two is, if you're going to write a comedy song, you have to be able to understand the lyrics boldly. A lot of these lyrics are kind of, you know, they're choppy and the music is loud, and you really have to like really pay attention to what is being sung, and you don't want to do that with a comedy song. The vocals should blast right out. You know, you should be able to blatantly understand those vocals, because in a comedy song, the vocals are the point. You know, if you can't understand, it's like a stand-up comedian and you can't understand what they're saying. What are we listening? What is the joke here? I can't understand the person. So that's, you know, the album doesn't really work on a lot of levels. But I get it. It is 1983, and it's a throwback, and it's fun to hear something dirty recorded in the early 80s, and the new wave music makes it fun anyway. And so it's a fun little, you know, curio piece, but it's not anything that's going to be like, oh my God, I gotta, who wrote this? They're the comedy genius. I guess there was a CD release of this that came out in the 90s, and it added a bunch of songs. What I would assume is they were going to come out with the second album and never did, and had all these tracks, because the bonus tracks on the CD are actually better than the album tracks, because they're a little more realized. There's this Moist Towelette song about all the stains that this moist towelette can get off. There's some song called Teenage Enema Nurses in Bondage. So the title right there has got more going on than any of the songs that were on the original album. And so, yeah, there's the throwaway tracks, or the second tracks that weren't used or whatever, are actually more realized than what was on the original album. But yeah, you know, I've heard it now. I've reviewed it. Killer Pussy and Bikini Wax, 1983. Okay, so now for something totally different is this group that I had never heard of, called the Meridian Brothers. It was the Incompetence Incompetence Ninja Vinyl TV channel that recommended this, from Germany. It is a band from Colombia, and the album has mostly been released in Switzerland. So we're going, you know, very worldwide here, and of course being reviewed in the United States. The album is called Cumbia Siglo XX1, which I'm assuming is 21, or 21. I just learned how to say 21 in Spanish. 21. So always learning stuff. And cumbia is, I guess, a type of dance, like a salsa type thing. And every song title starts with that word. This is a mixture of all kinds of different sounds. You've got a lot of Latin rhythms, of course, but you also have like synths that sound like maybe like 80s, but at the same time modern, if that doesn't make any sense. It's not the 80s synths like in pop music. It's more like 80s synths in like 80s sci-fi movies, like that real foreboding kind of low, like, but it's all choppy and done like in samples. Very upbeat music, because it's a music you're supposed to do this dance to, every song. And it's an interesting listen. It's interesting. It's not the kind of thing I usually like. It's a lot of electronic music and electronic sounds, and like I said, sampling and things like that. But it is interesting. It's very different than what I'm used to. So I appreciate the suggestion to hear something that is completely different. Yeah, I don't really know what, I mean, it's best to listen to in kind of sections, listening to the whole album all the way through. Towards the end, I'm kind of like, okay, all right. Yeah, it was interesting. It's interesting the way it was all kind of all these different types of sounds put together to make this unique listening experience. And, it's all in Spanish, so I didn't understand any of it. I hope they weren't saying anything like, kill puppies or something like that, but I don't think they were. But yeah, didn't understand anything. It was interesting that a guy from Germany, because I love the German music, would recommend something from Colombia. Warum nicht Deutsch? But Yeah, it's interesting, very interesting, and very eclectic sounding, and not something I would have had anywhere on my radar. I love the album artwork too. That's interesting artwork. I like that. These guys have several albums, like maybe 8 or 10 albums out. This one is, I think, from maybe 2000. I don't know, 2020 or something like that. Maybe I can't remember now. But yeah, the Meridian Brothers is who they are. And this is just, like I said, a mixture of different electronic sounds. I'm not sure how this would play on a vinyl record. It might sound something that would be better suited for a stream or a CD, because it's all like this electronic stuff. But yeah, interesting. Not boring. Not something I hated listening to. Liked a lot of it, but it's not something that I think I would listen to like a whole album all the way through again. And I was going to say too, I don't understand Spanish, so I didn't understand what they were saying. But the second track is a cover of Dusty Springfield's "Son of a Preacher Man," so at least I knew what they were singing about then. But yeah, Cumbia Siglo XXI from the Meridian Brothers. Definitely different. And now it's time for Adam and the Ants, Kings of the Wild Frontier, which I always thought was the debut album, but it's actually their second album when it was still Adam and the Ants. And this was suggested by Streamuland channel. I'd heard of Adam Ant before. I've heard various... I guess I heard Dog Eat Dog, maybe that one sounded familiar, but I really wasn't that familiar with this album, which I probably should have been. I always meant to. It was one of those albums, that I always wanted to listen to at one point and just never got around to hearing a lot of Adam and the Ants. I mean, I remember in the early 80s, I liked the Goody Two Shoes, and the song Strip used to be on the video shows all the time. I thought that was just kind of there. And that was about all I knew from him. I know he had a song like in the 90s, maybe it was 1990, that Room at the Top or something like that. I barely remember that. But other than that, Dog Eat Dog, I think I saw a couple of times when they would have like a retro show or something like that. But yeah, wasn't familiar at all. I will say though, now having heard it, if you like Bow Wow Wow's "I Want Candy," you might want to check this album out. It sounds like various, different variations of that song. Yeah, I don't know what I was going to say, but I guess there's a reason for that, because Bow Wow Wow basically used to be Adam Ant's band, and then they went on to do their own thing, and so they kind of took that sound with them. That drumming sound, it's like the same throughout a lot of the album, especially side one, with this just kind of marching tribal type, that thing going on with two drummers doing it. So it's really pronounced. It's really, it's very much part of the music, which I like. I like drums. I like percussion. I like it when it's on the forefront, and it certainly is here. Like I said, especially side one. The U.S. version is the one that I listened to, which is, I think there's 2 songs that aren't on the UK one, the Press Darlings and You're So Physical, I think are the 2. With Press Darlings is great. I'm not a big fan of You're So Physical. That's a side 2 one. It doesn't have the same sound. It's kind of droning, and there's a reason, I guess, it doesn't have the same sound, because it's not from the same sessions. It's actually, that's why it was, I guess, originally a B-side in England. But yeah, great listen. Like I said, side 1 is the preferable one with all the drumming and all of that, and then his kind of flamboyant flair, which, if you're not watching videos, you're listening to an album, but this still comes through audibly. So, yeah, this is the kind of thing I would pay. If I saw this in the store I think it's like a $10 album, I might pick this up, actually. I've been missing out on it for, decades. I'm not sure about his other stuff. I don't know exactly how that sounds. The mic is being covered up here. I don't know how that sounds, but this is this is, great, it reminds me of Goody Two Shoes. It's the same type of thing, which I always liked that song. Very upbeat. I liked it when I was 12 years old or whatever, 11 years old, I think, or however old I was when that was out. But yeah, the Kings of the Wild Frontier. One of the reasons I never investigated is I hate that album cover. I hated the whole thing that they used to do in the 80s sometimes when they would take pictures of TV monitors to make it look like, the video age or whatever. And I just always hated that. The pictures of video monitor, pictures of TV screens. And that's what the cover is to this. So maybe that was the turn off the whole time. But yeah, need a better album cover. But Adam and the Ants, Kings of the Wild Frontier. Like I said, if you're a big fan of Bow Wow Wow, I Want Candy, you got to check this album out. All right, so I always like to do at least one album on here that I'm familiar with, that somebody suggested, and that I actually have a copy of. And now it's time for Tom Petty's Full Moon Fever. Perfect. I don't know if it's a full moon or not, but Kentendo wanted me to review this, and so that's what I'm doing. And I don't know if there's really a lot of people have heard this album. A lot of people love this album. This is Tom Petty's first solo album, first one without the Heartbreakers. Although, technically, the first Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers albums, there's a lot of songs on there that don't feature the Heartbreakers, but there's a little fun fact for you. But this one produced by Jeff Lynne, and it was right around the time of the Traveling Wilburys and all of that, when he was working with Jeff Lynne, and so you knew that this was inevitable. And yeah, great. I remember when this came out, it was so popular, and everybody had this. And the thing about this that I remember is, this was, one of those ones that was like, this was a CD. This is why I had this on CD. To me, this is one of the first CDs, albums. Not, when I first got a CD player, and what was that, late 88 or early 89, and believe me, I'd wanted one since 83. I mean, we didn't have the money for that, and I finally ended up getting one. This is back when you were a kid, when you, my, lifestyle and era and all of that. When you were a kid and you wanted something, you had to wait years for it. You just didn't, if it was a big item like a CD player, I just didn't be like, we would go to the store and, oh, I want a CD player. Oh, okay, I'll grab one, I had to wait like 4 or 5 years to get one. And so finally got one in, I think it was early 89, maybe late 88. And this was one of the first CDs that I got that was an actual album. Because, when you get a CD player, the first thing you want to do is get compilations. You want to get the best of this and the best of that, and all the hits or whatever. So I remember this when Billboard had a CD chart, or somebody had a CD chart of the top selling actual compact discs, not just albums and cassettes included. This was the first #1 CD. And so it even has a track on here, which is pretty funny, called Attention CD Listeners, that comes halfway through the album. And it's like these barnyard animal noises, and it says, in fairness to people with the LP or the cassette, we're going to take a break here and give them people time, like you're turning over the record or the tape. So we're going to take a break here in the middle of the CD. But yeah, so this has always been a CD to me. And so I don't ever see myself getting the vinyl. The CD sounds great. And the booklet that comes with this, every page looks different. So it's like a CD booklet. That's pretty iconic. One of the first ones I remember that had its own, the actual disc had its own design on it. And as far as the music, I mean, a lot of people have, we've heard the, Running Down a Dream is still one of my favorites, just because it's Tom Petty proving that, not only is he a, rock guy and he can create some rock songs, but he can like tear it up and just go into this flight. I mean, there's nothing like Running Down a Dream, listening to that in when you're just got your, you've had your driver's license for only a couple of years and you're just flying down. You're at a point where you can fly down the interstate with that blasting. I mean, what a great, just driving, just killer fast song from Tom Petty. I Won't Back Down is on here. You're So Bad. all kinds of hits on here. Oh my God, and Free Fallin'. Usually I don't get tired of songs. You know, I can hear working in radio, I can hear a song a million times. If I love the song, I love the song. Free Falling is the exception. Free Falling is one of the handful of songs that I don't care if I ever hear that again. I heard that song so much, and it's on so... I mean, people say that Stairway to Heaven is overplayed on the radio. It's really not. You don't hear that song a lot on the radio. Freebird is overplayed on the radio. It's really not. You don't really hear that a lot on the radio. You know, maybe in the 70s or something, but Free Fallin' is like everywhere all the time and has been for like 25 years. It's just, man, 35 years. First of all, it came out in 89, 90. It was still on the charts. So it gets played on 80s stations, it gets played on 90 stations, it got played on hit radio stations, it got played on alternative rock stations, it got played on active rock stations, it's played on classic rock stations, gets played on mainstream rock stations, gets played on adult contemporary stations, gets played on AAA radio stations. It's just everywhere. I don't know if there's it gets played on, I'm sure it's going to get played on country stations now. There's a I'm getting lightheaded. There is a Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers country tribute album now. Country stars of today doing the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I heard it. It is, I don't ask me. It's awful. Of course it is. And a lot of the country singers are the ones of today, and they sing in this real overly earnest voice. She's a good girl. She's crazy about Elvis. Awful. I don't know what Tom Petty did to deserve that, but it must have been something terrible we didn't know about. But I will say I don't want to hear Free Fall anymore, but I would rather hear the Tom Petty version than that mess. But yeah, the album tracks on here are serviceable. I don't think there's any that are blowing people away or, wow, there's a great, awesome hidden album jewel on here that you just got to hear. They're serviceable. They're not the kind of thing you're going to turn off, but they're not mind-blowing album tracks. Facing the Crowd is, decent. Apartment Song is fun. What's the Heart with a Mind of Its Own is funny, about My Name is Earl or whatever. I wonder if that's where the TV show got its name. But yeah, Full Moon Fever, you know it, you love it. It's one of Tom Petty's best in a whole lot of great albums. And I usually don't like cover songs, but his cover of The Byrds, I Feel a Whole Lot Better, is excellent. Absolutely excellent. Tom Petty does better cover songs than people do covering Tom Petty songs, I'll say that. No surprise. But yeah, Full Moon Fever, Tom Petty, I mean, come on. All right, it's probably time to try to wrap this thing up with one final review. And that is the Allan White album called Ramshackled from 1976. Allan White, of course, the drummer from Yes. He only had one solo album, and Jeremy Wormy wanted me to review this one. And so that's what I'm doing. When I heard that the drummer from... First of all, I'm not a huge Yes fan. I like some of their stuff. I really like the Yes album. But I'm not like a knocked out Yes fan by any stretch of the imagination. And so I heard that a progressive rock drummer was going to do, had a solo album. I'm thinking, wow, this could be interesting. You're going to hear, because I love drums. Drums are usually my favorite thing in a song. I'm always listening for how the drums were recorded, and I love the sound of organic. Somebody just mic'd a drum kit, and that's one of the things I love about the way blues music is recorded. They usually don't do anything to the drums, and they're just there and they're clear and crisp, and that's my favorite thing. So I was really kind of looking forward to, we got a progressive rock drummer. He's made his own, so he's going to do his own thing now. He's going to break free of the restraints of Yes, and that is not at all what happens. This is the opposite of that. This is a very pedestrian album. I don't know what the point of this was, other than I guess all the guys from Yes were doing solo albums, so Allan White was like, okay, I'll do one. And he didn't write any of the songs, he doesn't sing the songs, he just plays the drums, and the first song is called Ooh Baby. And with that title It tells you, you know, it's a very loungy type song, but it's kind of like loungy, you know, it's 70s lounge, but done in the 80s on cocaine or something. It's very fast. Musicianship is, you know, is competent, but it's a loungy kind of thing, and it's called Ooh Baby. You got songs in there, you know, that song even has the ba ba ba, you know, I mean, that gives you an idea of what the music is. Avatak, 12 Ways to Drink Meths, I think maybe that's the third track, but it starts getting jazzy, and with the song starting out like that, Ooh Baby, you know the jazziness is coming up, and it does, you know, with the horns and trumpets and muted trumpets and whatever. And it basically sounds a lot like, you know, like your typical 70s Dave Mason album, or maybe like a later Boz Scaggs album. You know, it's just that real middle of the road 70s sound. They do a little island thing in there because, you know, you got to do that. You got to get a little Jamaica going on with some song called Silly Woman, you know, with the Silly Woman, you know, that type of thing. You know, a song on there called Giddy about how they're going to go to this bar where the boys and the girls all get down and the bartender's hip don't take no lip. Hey, you know, it's that kind of thing for a lot of it. But if you're listening for like, wow, the drummer from Yes, let's hear him, that never really comes out. It's very pedestrian drumming. The album, you know, it's just very indifferent. It's indifferent, you know, and I'm indifferent to it. It's not horrible. There's nothing on here that's like, my God, this is terrible. You know, it's not like a Beach Boys album or something like that where it's just horrendous and you can pick things out and make fun of it or whatever. But it's just kind of middle of the road. It's there. It's, you know, it's very quality musicians, quality recording, but there's nothing that's going to blow you away, and there's certainly no, you know, standout drumming going on. You know, you've got a song there's this really light kind of acoustic instrumental called Marching Into a Bottle where there's not even any drums on it, you know, so the drummer decides to take a break for a track on his own album. Trumpet solo ends the whole thing, Darkness Part 1 through 3. You get the jazzy trumpet thing going on. And yeah, so I don't, you know, it's like I said, it's like trying to like do some big deep dive into a Dave Mason album, you know, or, you know, but like I said, like a Boz Scaggs album. It's like, what, you know, it's okay, you know, that's about it. Allan White, actually, you know, he was the drummer for the for John Lennon for a while. He did the Plastic Ono Band and the single Instant Karma. So yeah, he had that. I don't think he drummed on the Plastic Ono Band album because that's Ringo, but he drummed on the Toronto Live Peace thing and parts of Imagine. So you know, that's more of like, I'm more familiar with that. But still, the drumming on, you know, it's not like the drumming on the song Imagine or anything on there was like, wow, check out this drum solo or whatever. So I don't know. There's definitely more standout drumming on a Yes album than there is here. So Jeremy Wormy wanted me to review this. I have now reviewed it, and thank you for watching all of these reviews. I am, like I said, I am feeling better. Thank you for all of the well wishes from the previous video where I looked like terrible and sounded terrible. Obviously, I'm feeling better now. Just really kind of weird, loopy, kind of the medication and all that kind of stuff, and then, you know, kind of weak, but sitting on the floor in a blanket. But I don't think my voice is up to snuff yet, but yeah, hopefully next video I'll be back to my original wonderful self. And you know, again, thank you for all the great comments on the previous video. And I'm probably going to take a break from reviewing people's suggestions. I've got some other ideas I want to do. And you know, I've listened to a lot of music while I was just lying around on a couch. So I've got those type of things to talk about. And hopefully you'll check some of those videos out. And I will talk to you then. Thank you so much for the support. And thank you for watching.